Hi, boys and girls in fourth grade. It's Mrs. Swidrick here, trying to give you some math support while we were away on our virus vacation. Thought maybe we could talk a little bit about fractions today. Remember, just to review what we've been discussing so far, fraction is a part of a whole. Something like 1/2 is very easy for us to see. Hope you can see that. And then we made equivalent fractions with fractions that we start with. And remember the rule, if you multiply the numerator and the denominator by the same number, you will get an equivalent fraction. So if I multiply 1/2 by 2 over 2, I would get 2/4, which is equivalent to 1/2. And if you wanted to see that, you could see it like this. My circles aren't as good as Mr. Cameron's are, but you'll get the idea. 1/2 and 2/4 occupy the same amount of space on those circles, which are supposed to be the same. Sorry. Okay. Then we talked about reducing fractions too. Like if we had 2/4 and we wanted to see what its lowest terms were, we would divide the numerator and the denominator by the same number. Mr. Cameron would say use the GCF, the Gordon-Cameron factor, which is really the largest number that the two numbers have in common. And so if I divide 2 by 2, I'd get 1. If I divide 4 by 2, I get 2. And I'm back to the fraction in lowest terms. Okay? So that should be a pretty good review of basic fractions. Then we talked about something called the improper fraction. It's improper because we don't usually think of fractions as being greater than a whole. Fraction is a part of a whole, right? But sometimes we see something like this. Mr. Cameron says when we see those kind of fractions, we have to talk about them with our British accent. So that's very improper because the numerator is larger than the denominator. What does that really represent? Well, we use this as our dividing line. Remember, the fraction line is really a division sign. And we would take the top number, divide it by the bottom number, and we know from our multiplication facts that 3 goes into 12 4 times. 4 times 3 is 12. Therefore, the improper fraction, 12 over 4, really equals 3. And then we learned that we could take an improper fraction like this. What if we had 13 over 4? We do the same thing. 4 into 13 is 3 times 4 is 12 with a leftover of 1. What is that leftover? That leftover or remainder of 1 really becomes the numerator of the fractional part that's left over. So 4 went into 13 3 times with 1 left over. And as Mr. Cameron says, yeah, don't mess with the denominator. So 13/4 becomes 3 1/4. Okay? So far, I bet you all are following this and are knowing what to do, right? Right. Okay. So then we started to add fractions. And we learned things like if we have 2/4 and 1/4, if the denominators are the same, no problem. We can go ahead and add the numerators. 2/4 and 1/4 becomes 3/4. We're done because that can't be in any lower terms. That's the end of that. Okay? We did the same thing with subtraction. If we have 5/6 minus 3/6, we would get something like 5 minus 3, because remember the denominators are the same. I can subtract the numerators. I get 2/6. But then remember what Mr. Cameron says, we've got to always reduce those fractions to the lowest terms if they can be reduced. And we know the greatest common factor of 2 and 6, and also because they're both even numbers, we can divide the numerator and the denominator by 2, and we get what? 1/3. So the answer of 5/6 minus 3/6 is actually 1/3. Okay. Then I think we were just starting to add and subtract mixed numbers. So if we have something like, well, let's even go back a little bit further. What happens if the denominators are different? Okay. Let's say something like 2/4 plus 3/8. Uh-oh. What happens now? We can't add those or subtract them if we were subtracting unless we have a common denominator. And a common denominator is basically the same thing as the least common multiple of 4 and 8. So I bet a lot of you are even able to recognize that the common denominator would be 8, because 4 times 2 is 8. Whatever you multiply the denominator by, you have to multiply the top by the numerator. 2 times 2 is 4, right? And whatever you, well, we don't have to do anything with this one, do we? Because it already has 8 as a denominator, so it just slides right over. Now we add the numerators because our denominators are the same, and we have 7/8 as our final answer. Can that be reduced? Nope, we're done. Same thing would work for subtraction. Just want to briefly go over mixed numbers just for a second, then we'll stop for today, and then you'll go on Google Classroom, and Mr. Cameron will give you some more work to do. And then I encourage anybody that has questions, you can email me at Swiderek, SWIDEREK, P, at olgcparish.net. And I can address your questions directly and make a little video just for you. Let's go over subtracting mixed numbers one more time, and then we'll stop for today, and then you can email your questions, okay? All right, let's try something like 3 4/8 minus 2 1, let's say 1/4. Ooh, that's interesting, isn't it? Okay. Well, first of all, we have to check and see if the denominators are the same, and they're not, are they? Well, I got to find the common denominator, and again, I know that would be 8, would be my least common multiple of the 4 and the 8 timetables. So we move over our whole numbers, don't forget those, and then we're going to have new fractions with both having the common denominator of 8. 4/8 can slide right over. This now becomes, because we have to multiply by 2, it becomes 2/8. And 4/8 minus 2/8 is 2/8. 3 minus 2 is 1, and don't forget to always simplify your answers. 1, because they're both even, I can divide by 2, remember, it's called reducing, and we end up with 2 and 1/4. That would be our final answer. Okay, I think that's enough for today. If you remember all that, you're doing great. And just want to let you know, you are my sunshine, my only sunshine. And don't worry about a thing. We're going to get through this fine. And by the way, I have 72 ice cream sandwiches in my freezer. And that's for the extra math contest. When we do get back, the homeroom with the highest number of points in extra math will receive an ice cream sandwich. So that's it for now. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Bye-bye now.